All right, everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We'll give everyone just a few minutes to kind of get in, get settled. It takes everyone just a few minutes to join us today. But, while we're waiting, give us a hello in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from. What's the weather look like out your door? I know a bunch of people are going to get a big blizzard or snowstorm. So hopefully everyone stays warm and safe and power stays on and all those good things you hope for in a winter storm. And then I think lots of rain across the rest of the United States. Right?
Well, it's where I'm from, Edmonton, Alberta. It's sunny and my temperature conversion about 11 Fahrenheit. So
it's cold.
That's a good December here.
We are going to get some of that weather next week here in the Midwest. I think we have one day where the high is 12, which is like
I'll fly up here, Jen. So.
Brutal. All right, is everyone also kind of getting ready to wrap up the end of the year? It's hard to believe 2022 is kind of coming to an end. Looking into 2023 for sure. I know we're already making plans here at ARMA for some fun stuff in 2023. All right, well, it looks like we've got a pretty good number here. I think we should go ahead and get started just to give, our speakers in the presentation as much time as it deserves. So, welcome today. We've got our last webinar 2022. So I just mentioned it, we're wrapping up the year. We were able to bring more content and webinars to our community than we ever have in the past. So definitely thank you to all of our attendees, speakers, business partners, everyone who made that possible. It was a really great year when it comes to digital content for our community this year. And today's webinar is Microsoft Purview eDiscovery. I am joined today by a couple great speakers. We've got Fitzgerald and Jordan Uytterhagen, and they've prepared a really great presentation for you. But before we get started, I got a couple announcements I want to make for you. Let's see if I can advance the slide. Won't let me. Will somebody skip to the next one for me? Thank you. All right, I'm Jennifer Millett. If you don't know who I am, I'm the Director of Sales and Business Partner Development here at ARMA. I have been here for about 7 years and love to bring these types of events to you, and then also work, very closely with our events team. So all of our InfoCon and a couple new good events coming up this year, I'll be a part of that as well. If you're an ARMA member, thank you for being here today. We, appreciate your dedication to our community. If you haven't visited your My ARMA page on arma.org, make sure you go and check out all of the new stuff we have to add there. If you haven't joined one of our new online communities, our industry communities, definitely do that. It's a great new asset that we've recently just added. There's definitely some great conversations going on as we speak, great networking opportunities, meet some other like people in your industries, really, really good opportunity there. And then if you're joining us as a friend of ARMA, welcome. We're so happy to have you. We highly encourage you to, take a minute to check out our website, take a chance to, see all the things that ARMA has to offer our community. All right, if you want to jump to the next one for me. All right, big news. We just opened call for proposals yesterday. So if you've got some great content, you want to share, a case study, some of your experience, we would love to have your proposal for InfoCon 2023. We'll be in Detroit the first week of October. So a really great opportunity to, collaborate with your peers, stand in front of your community and others in your industry and share your knowledge. We also will be taking proposals for our Canadian conference, which will take place in July of this year in Toronto. So, submit for both events. We would love to have you definitely and your content at both events. All right, and there should be a link coming up in the chat to access that information. All right, now just some housekeeping and everyone's burning questions. First of all, we have enabled closed captioning. So if you'd like to turn that off, there's just a simple button in your toolbar to turn off the closed captioning option. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We hope that you guys are really chatty in the chat box, and we often miss those questions in the if they stay in the chat. So make sure you skip them over to that Q&A box, and that will let our panelists know to answer your questions. And then as a part of this this webinar, you will receive the slides and the copy and a recording of the presentation and your CEU information in a webinar, in an email to come tomorrow about this time tomorrow. So keep an eye on your inbox for all of that information. And then if you want to skip to the next slide for me, I just want to take a minute to thank Cadence Solutions for their sponsorship today. We can't bring this content to you guys without the support of our business partners. So we hope that when you're considering products and services for your company, you consider the business partners that support you, like Cadence Solutions. So thanks again to the team to bring in this content to us today. And then next page. We have just do a brief introduction of Jordan and Caitlin today. Caitlin is joining us from Microsoft. She's the Senior Product Marketing Manager for eDiscovery and Audit at Microsoft. And she's based out of Redmond, Washington, which I think they're part of that group that's going to get that big snowstorm. And then we've got Jordan Uytterhagen is the Managing Director for Cadence Solutions, specializing in Microsoft 365, SAP, and OpenText. Jordan and his team have completed more than 70 implementations across North America in almost every industry. So definitely bring the skills and the knowledge to help our community today. So with that, I will turn it over to you guys to take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome to be here. Good to be here. Happy to be here. Glad to see so many folks here. I'm going to cover quickly the agenda, and I think Jordan's going to put a poll up shortly just to understand a little bit about the audience and who's with us here today, and then we'll dive in. So first, I'm going to do a quick overview of our Microsoft Purview eDiscovery Premium solution and the different versions. So we do have that standard and premium. So we're going to talk a little bit about both and what you get and the value with our premium solution. They're also known as E3 or E5. So I think E5 would be the premium edition, or what used to be called advanced eDiscovery. We love to change our names at Microsoft. So that rebranding happened in April. And then we're going to discuss and demo some best practices for collecting and exporting content. We'll talk through some encryption myths versus reality, and then showcase some new eDiscovery capabilities within Teams. So let me jump in here. Okay, so this should come as no surprise for this group. One of the biggest challenges that many organizations face, right, is that increasing amount of data that they need to handle. And as you know, businesses embrace digital transformation, like Teams as an example. Data has been exploding, right, at an exponential rate. I think it's up 1,500% in the last 10 years, and it's expected to grow to about 181 zettabytes by 2025. And from an electronic records management perspective, this change can really pose some serious challenges, both for protection and management of this data, and your ability and need to discover data efficiently, right? Getting that right data when you need it, keeping those costs, complexity, and time commitments low. And while all this is happening outside, we've also obviously got quite a bit of data growing within Microsoft 365. So just sharing a couple numbers here. Globally, there's around 300 million commercial seats of Office 365, 250 million monthly active users of Microsoft Teams, and that's 145 million daily users, and that's doubled since April 2020, and over 5 billion documents classified by our Microsoft Purview solution every month. And so in order to help, our customers address their data and eDiscovery needs, Microsoft developed the Microsoft Purview eDiscovery solution. And the goal is really to provide you with the tools and processes to gather the right data so you can make the right decisions for you and your organization. And, eDiscovery is all about finding that relevant information, right? So for litigations and investigations, both internal and external, and historically, many organizations using more traditional eDiscovery methods, they would go out, collect large amounts of data from various distributed sources, store them in a central location, then index the data, search through the large amounts to try and find what's relevant. And often this process would be outsourced to a third-party vendor, and this approach could be time-consuming. It could add increased costs at each stage. It can also cause disruption, right, for end users for those data that was being collected. And so given the complexity and size of some of these cases, it's really critical to use a solution that helps find that relevant information in a timely manner. Typically, the most expensive parts of any litigation is that review and the resources fees that are associated. So it's super beneficial to minimize that data that needs to be reviewed and only what's relevant. And so you want to reduce that. You also want to reduce the risk, right, of overexposing data. And so what we do here is we provide a solution that allows you to do and find that information in place. So meaning within your tenant, right? And so some of those key benefits are being able to identify and build this out here a second. There we go. Is to be able to identify and preserve those relevant sources like teams, right? Which is a huge focus for many organizations. Using in-place tools so you can iterate on that content and reduce the collection size. You want to be able to analyze and review and tag that relevant content within the tenant. And then this helps you reduce the content required for export, right? Which again reduces the risk of overexposing non-relevant content to a third party. It also reduces those additional costs for storage in that third party solution. And it all leads towards having a lower average cost per custodian. So we're super proud about a recent IDC MarketScape that we took part of this summer. And this is, some validation, so you don't just take our word for it, right? IDC did this, was their first foray into the early case assessment, and they named Microsoft as a leader. And we're super proud of this. We've got a link there for you to read more about the report. And our two big factors that led to this great placement was our proximity to the data, which I think should be fairly obvious. And then some of our key investments like cloud attachments, which Jordan's going to talk about a little bit later when we discuss the teams section. So let's keep rolling. So I think everyone should be pretty familiar with the eDiscovery reference model, or EDRM. And so it's pretty complex, right? And this model is a great way to kind of talk through the various stages and workflows. And as we move through the eDiscovery process, the amount of volume in the case should decrease while the relevance of the results should increase. And by the end of the process, so in that production and presentation, the amount of data should reflect only that information really that is super relevant to the case. And so Microsoft's invested in the capabilities to help customers through those stages within their tenant, within Microsoft 365, which, as we talked about earlier, helps you consolidate vendors, reduce the need for additional third-party solutions, reduce that data, find only what's you really need to export as the bare minimum. So our standard edition, we've got within the Microsoft Purview solution, we've got different things like our records management or data lifecycle management, which also helps identify that content up front and make it easier to find the most relevant stuff for your case. And within our two solutions with eDiscovery, we've got standard and premium. So standard focuses on that identification, preservation, and collection phases. And then our premium version supports all of that, as well as processing, review, and analytics. We don't currently support, those traditional production and presentation stages. So that's where you would continue to use an external or third-party solution. We also have a table in the appendix of this slide that's going to go through the comparison of our standard and premium editions in a lot more detail. And I'm happy to share a link to some of our docs pages as well. So let's keep rolling. So I just want to cover quickly an internal use case. So our internal organization at Microsoft called CELA, so our Corporate External and Legal Affairs team, have seen some amazing growth and adoption. And they're not forced to use this. They choose to because some of the great ROI that they've received, which I'll share in a moment. And they use it for litigation, investigations, as well as security operations. All right, some numbers here. So I won't talk through all of these. But the big ones that stand out for me here is around minimizing the data for a typical case by 98%. And so that's the center at the bottom there. That obviously has huge benefits downstream. So as I mentioned earlier, around reducing that risk of overexposing non-relevant content, driving efficiency and lowering those costs. And then in the bottom right, you'll see they're reducing the cost per custodian by 91%. And this is all while the volumes have increased by 5,600%. Microsoft's not a small company, right? So these savings are quite impactful. So as you can see, there's over 6,000 legal holds that were managed and 18,000 custodians preserved. And then we've got some success in terms of costs and volume. And there's been great gains on the cost per custodian, the spend per case, and the items to reprocess have dropped dramatically. And then when using the review capabilities, which are available in the premium edition, they were able to get amazing reductions in volume prior to export. So saving money and time downstream. I think I've got 1 or 2 more slides left here, and then I'm going to shift gears and get Jordan to pop on. So this is kind of a good visual to show the journey that our internal CELA team has been on, where primarily when they were 100% outsourced, that's the left bar there is the cost, right, per custodian. So when they were outsourced, that was basically 100%. And then when they brought it in-house and started using the standard edition, so that E3 version, they saw 75% reduction in cost per custodian, which is huge. And then when they shifted to using premium, I think it was around 2007, 2008, they were able to reduce that further to like a 90% savings. And this was all while the amount of that data, the gigabytes per custodian, skyrocketed, right? Especially in 2020, when the majority of the workforce switched to working remotely. So imagine what their costs would have been if they were still outsourcing this process, right? With all of that data. So I think that's all I was going to cover. Jordan, I know you work with a lot of customers, so why don't you share what you're hearing from organizations that you work, and I'll put up the slide from KPMG that talks about some of the numbers that they've seen when they've been discussing with customers. Why don't you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Caitlin. There's a few questions in the chat for you as well. So if you want to jump over there and answer those, I grabbed a couple, but a few more specific ones. So yeah, my team and I were actually out at a conference last week, the M365 conference in Las Vegas. And the trend, as we kind of sat at our booth and fielded questions from the audience, was, do you guys sell software? What do you do? Are you third party? And the tone around that was they no longer wanted to have a third party add-on tied to anything 365, which makes complete sense at this point. It's also a trend we're seeing. So the cost savings alone and my kind of light bulb moment with eDiscovery was when I worked at a municipality, we would have to have many tools to go and perform eDiscovery for public records requests on email, on file shares, and then in our repository. Now, with 365, if you're using it, and it looks like our poll question was about a 50-50 usage on E5 versus E3. If you're using it, as Caitlin said, the proximity to that data reduces the need for another piece of software in the middle, which just increases the cost savings out of something that you're already paying for, likely IT's paying for it, and you can extract the value out of without needing to go and procure more software if you're on the E5 level. So it is one of the trends we've seen, the lack of desire for third-party add-ons, the expansion of capabilities from Microsoft if you're moving or up on the E5 level of things. So I'll walk through a couple of features and functionalities. If you've seen me in a presentation before, I'm not a big slides guy. I like to actually go into the software and kind of show a day in the life more so. So I'll tee up a few things here in a couple of slides, and then we'll jump into the actual demonstration of creating a case and going through. And I got some things kind of pre-cooked as well we'll show off. So in terms of going through in Purview eDiscovery, if we're going to go through the identification and preservation phase, we got to go and, of course, locate that data. And when we get into the actual system, there's a couple different types of data, I guess you can call them silos or areas we can do. There's custodians, so people, mailboxes, and things like that. Then there's simply just location, SharePoint sites, Teams chats and channels, things that house documents that we want to track as well. So in the identification phase, we're looking to key in those specific search terms, go through and perform any notifications. We can also add different members to our case if we want some help internally, if we're not a one-person show. In some organizations, that is how it runs. But if you have a team that can help you, you can add permissions to them so they can help you with the case and the identification of any data that needs to be discovered. From the collection side of things, we can go through and search and collect that data. So it's essentially that, throwing that net out there, collecting that data back, iterating through the queries and the results that come back, and then choosing what to do next with it. So that can be transcripts from Teams or Yammer, that can be SharePoint content, that can be mailbox content, and you can even go through and perform some of the redactions with it, which is, I think, a feature that's not really talked about much on the Microsoft side of things. So I got one cooked up in that we could show off as well. So what I'm going to do quickly here is I'm just going to end the slideshow. We're going to jump into this. And Caitlin, I see on the video, if you can give me a head nod if the Purview side's showing there. So that looks good. And we'll jump into this. So I'm just going to launch our second poll question quickly, which is essentially, have you seen this before? Have you seen eDiscovery before from Microsoft? This is going to be the premium side of things. So this is tied to E5. E5, if you're doing anything, information management, governance, records management, you have to go E5 essentially. We don't get paid to sell Microsoft software, but that's the tool we need in order to do what we do. So looks like about 60-40, 60% has not seen this before and 40-some% has. So that's pretty good. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to show you some of the cases that have been pre-cooked here, and we'll kind of talk through some of the capabilities here and go through it. So essentially, if you're in here for the first time and you're like, I don't know, I'm confused on what to do, think left to right. We're going through the overview, go through your sources, your collection, your review, any optional communications, your hold, your processing, your exports, your jobs, and your settings. Left to right, that'll always kind of save you the navigating side of things here. As we go through and look at the data sources on this case we're in, this is a legal hold case set up for this month specifically. This is a second to load up.
Can we blame the snowstorm for any delay on your internet?
If it's in Seattle, yeah, that's where this is hosted. So we'll run back out here. Nothing like a live demo. So. We're going to jump all the way back in. There we go. Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to sign out of Teams, as fun as that is. All right, screen look okay, Caitlin?
It's back up, but hasn't loaded yet. Yeah. We tested this all yesterday.
Tested it first thing this morning, without a doubt. That's when I created the redactions. We will jump back in.
I'm
okay,
working through questions on the side, just for those that have asked.
There we go. It's alive. Okay. All right, so to recap, we're in the legal hold case underneath a data source area of the system. And there's two different types of data sources. Oh, I even got a thumbs up, a sympathy thumbs up. Thank you. So there's two types of essentially data sources you can collect from. There's custodians. So I always kind of remind myself like there was a custodian when I was at school. Those are people. People have different locations that we can go through and grab content from. So right now we have two people here. We have Alex and Lee. I'm just going to pull Alex up here quickly. He's already in here. And underneath Alex, we can see all of his information, his role, and actually where we're pulling his information from. So we're actually going to go through and pull out any information from Alex in his mailbox and also his OneDrive. And we're going to put these on hold. Another area we're able to go through and pull from is a location, so a data location. And these can be things such as SharePoint sites. If you know there's a specific site you need to target, if you're very organized in the information architecture world and you know that I got an issue with a vendor, I'm going into procurement and I'm looking for that vendor and I'm locking that site, or I'm locking the entire procurement site. So you can actually go through, pick out one of your SharePoint sites, explicitly go through and perform that as a data source and go through and do a collection and a review on that and proceed forward. So let's say we're going to do something in the public works side of things. Add that as one of our locations. And we can actually go into Exchange, same kind of thing, pull it if you have any shared mailboxes. So if you're looking to do that on, if you have an inbound invoices box, if you're working procurement and you want to lock that down. And then any connected apps. So we can grab these connected apps, and Caitlin and I were kind of chatting about this week around the tentacles that are essentially coming out of eDiscovery and Purview into other apps that are not native to Microsoft. So they can be things like WhatsApp for messaging, Bloomberg Terminal for other communication mechanisms that can kind of pop out and pop in here for eDiscovery. But you still have that capability here without needing to go and, again, look for a third-party tool or software to go through and do that. I'm going to add this new non-custodial data location, so essentially a hard location of Public Works. And I've pre-cooked a few collections that we can look at once this is done loading up here.
Jordan, while you do that, did you chat about how, sorry if I missed it because I've been answering questions on the side. Did you chat about how the premium edition shows you which teams the custodian is a part of? So it kind of does that work for you? I
didn't touch on that one.
Okay, I'll let you finish what you're doing. But if you want to open up one, Alex Wilbur there, we can show the team how, or when you're, exactly. You open that up and then
grab them.
Edit. So this, in this case, for this demo environment, you've only got the two teams there, but it would actually pull up all the teams locations that this user is a part of, and would allow you to select which ones that you think are relevant for the case. And that's different than the standard edition, in which you would have to find the team site and you'd have to enter that URL, similar to what you do for SharePoint. Yeah.
And I think that'll depend on the sprawl of teams in your organization or the usage. So I know that here, every project you participate on, you're granted a team site, and then there's all the other team sites. So somebody brought birthday cake, the lunch team site, all the other teams that pop in that we may not want to go through and select here, but we may want everything relevant to Jordan performing project work from the team side of things.
Awesome.
So again, in this side of things, the first time we went through and performed the identification of Alex as a custodian, we simply selected his mailbox and his OneDrive. If we'd like to expand on that, you can go back in, edit any of these properties, walk through, perform essentially the hold settings, do the review, basically the same screen as 2 screens ago, and proceed to submit that. Walking one step further into collections, on the collection side of things, we can have different collections based on the search terms we're going through. So a few of these that have been pre-cooked, kind of using that cooking show analogy of doing this in advance, so you're not watching it all come through. And you'll see a list of documents and content essentially populate here shortly. And this was one of the more, I guess, telling moments for me. I worked with different content management systems over the last 15 years. And the ability to come in here and actually go and preview documents, now see Teams chat messages, including what we'll show you at the end, kind of some of the reactions and the GIFs and the goofiness that can come outside of Teams, and actually having that available in one shot in eDiscovery in front of you. If you do want to grant others access to this, I can show you that as well, so you don't have to be that one-person show going through and performing all that. One of the key features that's, I know, expanding on development as well, and Caitlin, I don't know if you have any comments on that, is the annotation side of things. So the annotation and the redaction side of things in eDiscovery, as all of you know, is very, very important. And it's nice to do it all in kind of one fell swoop, as opposed to extracting, redacting somewhere else, and then coming back in and performing that.
Yeah, I don't have much to share on the annotation. I will say that there's been some improvement on the metadata side to try and organize that and make it a little bit more easily understood in this setting. And then there's something else I was going to mention, but I didn't want to interrupt. Oh yeah, the bringing in other kind of members to support the case. I just want to make a plug that it's now on the public roadmap, but we are providing the ability to bring external guest access. So if there's a law firm that you're going to be working with and you want to provide that person access to the case specifically, then you can grant them that kind of external or delegated access. So they don't get access to your tenant. They can't do anything else. They're literally just assigned that specific case and access to this same view where they can go in and actually make their notes or add their comments within the tool itself. Again, having to reduce some claps. Excellent. I know, I'm excited about that one too. So yeah, I can put a plug for the roadmap item in the chat in a second, so you can follow that journey as that becomes available. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Caitlin. So a couple just redaction side of things. So we have this in our doc set or in our review set. Instead of our review set, we can make it full screen and go through and perform redactions. How the system behaves after this is you actually submit this as a job, and the job goes back and processes the redactions, and then it can flip the format to a PDF as well. So essentially the burn-in of those redactions can be done all within the eDiscovery Purview side of things on Premium. So pretty slick. We have run into people that want specific colors and things. Of course, that's here. And it's something that you can do kind of all here. I still know people that take the physical marker, print it out, and do the old school style redactions. It'd be nice if we could encourage the transition into this and proceed going forward there. If you do want to remove them all in one shot, you can do that. Any kind of redactions can be published and put onto, I got this Zoom thing in the way, published and put into a PDF format and essentially quote unquote burned in.
And this again just makes the markup on the copy, right? As opposed to the actual original document. So you're not changing anything on the original document. Yeah.
So metadata pertaining to the document, essentially in the set that's up for review, can be seen here as well. So everything's really at your fingertips in one screen. And if you're got the appropriate permissions, it's very, very easy to go through. Touching on the communication side of things. So if you do want to send out a communication to somebody, there are the ability to have templates for communication to go out to certain individuals saying, you know, FYI, this is happening on the site. This site may be held, or we're investigating one of your staff members. That can all be done formally through here, or of course your informal channels through email or other conversations. If we went through and performed any holds, they're going to be shown here. Holds essentially run out as a job, and jobs are what process everything pertaining to your set. So earlier in the day, we actually went through and converted a few redacted items to PDF. So they'll be shown in the job side of things if you do perform that full redaction all the way through. It did take around 30 minutes for that to run, but it did run successfully and redacted everything. So that is something that we've seen a lot in, let's say, other eDiscovery tools and competitive products in the content services side of things. That's very valuable to folks. And then in terms of adding access and permission, so Caitlin mentioned that the external access will be enabled or rolled out, I guess is a better term for it for anybody. But if you are looking at doing this internally, you can essentially add folks to your case. So I've added Joni here. So we have Joni and I'm logged in as Adam right now that are members on this case that can help me gather information. If we want to add full roles, we can do that as well. If you do have different kind of roles in your organizations, or you want to piggyback one of the existing roles inside of your organization through the tenant side of things. If you do have to rename, relabel, do anything with your case, you can do that here as well, just under settings. So it's maybe one touch behind the scenes here under settings, but that is all possible here. So if you're in here, if you're in your own environment and you're playing around, you can go left to right on the screen. It's pretty standard to walk through. And then I guess the real tip is if you want to cover the custodians, those are people, the data locations are not. And now with some of the Teams features, which we do have some slides at the end here, we'll show off with some of the chats, channels, and I guess new additions to the eDiscovery side of things that we'll show off. So Caitlin, maybe I'll turn it over to you. Is there something you want me to poke at here before we jump back into the deck?
Sorry, purposely trying to answer all these great questions. So I'm trying to multitask. And one of them was about training. So we will provide some resources at the end. There's some links to help get deeper into the solution. I think we've covered everything in this section. Yeah, I feel pretty good about this. Yeah, let's keep going with what the other topics are past halfway point. Yeah.
Jump back here, yeah, and we'll leave some time at the end for questions as well, just if we want to round through the Q&A in there. It looks like you're fighting the battle in the Q&A side of things, so we'll carry on there, and I'll kind of go into the next piece here, which is ingesting and archiving the data into 365. So you can discover that data that's ingested into 365, and really the cross functionality is what makes Purview and this so much more capable than anything in the past. The proximity, I think, was one of the best phrases. The proximity to the data gives you the ability to interact with it, not just from an eDiscovery standpoint. I'm sure we have a ton of records managers and information managers on the webinar today. So the ability to do case closure of records in Purview, the ability to do sensitive information types and do some data loss prevention all within here as well, while still having that overseeing eDiscovery capability to go in and do the checks and balances and the disclosure of anything that needs to be moved out to an outside counsel kind of situation, or just investigated further. There's one catalog for all connectors, so you can discover all the supported connectors built by Microsoft. So this goes into the ones that we kind of covered previously, and that's the WhatsApp, the Bloomberg terminal, the other kinds of chat things that can be brought into here, and then again the tentacles of Purview and eDiscovery going out and performing its what it does best in terms of the discovery, the search, the collection, the review, and then the export and the disclosure. Now, the difference between what's in the premium, so essentially what comes with E5 and what doesn't, and it looks like our audience today was around 50-50 distribution there, which is good to see, is the deep indexing. So the re-indexing of content or partially indexed content with errors to make it fully searchable, so we can go back and take another pass at that if it didn't succeed. The near duplicate detection, so grouping of similar documents together. So deduping is really important in IM, of course, if we're doing things like even migrating in. We've done some kind of tricks where we'll migrate content in and then we'll turn Purview around and point it back at it to see what's duplicate. So we don't have to go and maybe look at a deduping tool if we can use some of those existing capabilities. Email threading is a big one. I know email management in general with information management's always been that hard nut to crack. When do I file the email? Is it automatically put in there for me? On the eDiscovery side, am I getting all the emails back? Do I take the whole thread? Do I take the last one? Do I trust that nobody's changed anything in previous replies? So the parsing of those emails to identify if they're complete for content and context is really important. And then kind of predictive coding. So reduce the amount of content to review by training specific predictive coding modules for prioritization in there. So I think that's something that Microsoft's, I know, invested a lot in this, not just in eDiscovery, but in other products that are rolling out, Syntax being one of them, where there's a lot of this content AI being rolled out into the family that's creating a lot of different capabilities that I think even myself as an IM consultant type of person didn't expect at this stage. One of the myths, and something Caitlin and I talked about, was encryption. So if we have encryption and encrypted files, what are some of the restrictions that we're going to have? So this is in one of the slides later that kind of has the takeaways in terms of a bunch of links, but essentially there's the three types of eDiscovery. There's a content search, there's standard, and there's premium. And essentially, if you have premium, if you're on E5, you don't need to really do anything further. encryption isn't an issue. You can preview the encrypted files, you can review them in a set, you can export them, the encrypted files attached to an email. The one that really annoys a lot of folks if they don't have the premium side of things is they're unable to review the encrypted files in a review set. It's a time suck, it's consuming, it's not something that anyone's going to say they're happy doing, but that is the kind of reason to jump up to the premium side of things.
Yeah, one thing I'll just clarify here, so I think the NA there is because review is not part of standard, so you only get review capabilities in premium, but the line above that is that you can't even preview when you're in the collection phase, right? So you can't validate, is this even a document that I would want to commit to a review set or export, because yeah. And the reason you want to keep, you don't want to sacrifice security by decrypting everything just to export it, review it, and then re-encrypt it for the review, right? It's ideal to be able to actually preview those files, make that determination without having to decrypt them, and doing it again in place in the tenant without having to, expose that data in another fashion. Yeah.
Thank you, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
One footnote there is you need to be assigned the RMS decrypt role to preview, review, and export those files that are encrypted. So if you're trying this and you're not having success in your tenant, come back to the slide, take a peek at this. These are all links as well that we can that will be published as a part of the PDF slide deck you can refer back to make sure you're able to perform those functions in your environment. All right, I'm going to jump into some of the kind of new things that are coming from the eDiscovery and Teams product marketing folks. So eDiscovery Premium for Teams, so you can search and investigate Teams content. And most Teams content is discoverable, including the chat, the IMs, the reactions, even some of the GIFs, which it can be dangerous. If you use Teams, there's two levels of GIFs that can be enabled. There's, we'll say like PG, and then there's like everything else for GIFs that you probably use in your personal life that can also be enabled in Teams. So it depends what kind of organization you work at. If you're IT administrator or tenant administrator, enable those. They are discoverable, so keep that in mind if you're doing things in Teams chats with GIFs and reactions that maybe isn't such a good idea and you don't want a record of. So the search and investigation side is expanding quite a bit here from the team side of things. A quick example of that, and we kind of showed this briefly as well, is you can identify the teams related to specific custodians. So if you do have that user, that employee that you're investigating, and they are on many teams, we can identify those from within the custodian picker in terms of the locations that we're going to actually go through and grab for that custodian for content, and grab the teams relevant to that. If we're going through and collecting teams as conversations, this will run as a bit of a GIF, so I'll let it loop a few times. It now includes those reactions. So you'll see we're going to pull up an individual piece of content based on the search term of huge, pull up the actual thread of that conversation, and everything that's kind of circled in blue here, you're going to see it maybe a bit small, but it'll say like or heart or thumbs up, and those reactions will actually be discoverable from within the Purview eDiscovery Premium side of things, all from within the document review and the review set side of things. So it's pretty powerful as well. We do get asked quite a bit about, what about Teams, because it is turning into that massive collaborative engine, and that's just generating so much content that may not formally be a document that's stored, or it's a document that was shared through Teams that's simply residing in the SharePoint site back of house, but you're just accessing the Files tab in Teams. So the one thing also Caitlin wanted me to kind of touch on is cloud attachments. So if you're sharing a file through Teams, you're now going to get a link to the file. We've probably all done this. We did this a lot with this presentation today. It was just too big for the inbox, so we were sending back the link back and forth and collaborating that way. When you go through and do the discovery, you're going to get the version back of the file as shared. So if I share V6, out and I go back and do discovery, that's going to come back for me. So this should run as an animation here. 1 second. It's just 2 slides. And you'll see the file format, actually, the file change based on the file that was shared that we want to bring back in discovery. So when you're doing discovery, of course, you got to be very particular and pointed in terms of which file version we're going to pull back. Do we want all versions? Do we want the version shared? That capability is now available for any cloud attachments, so essentially links that are shared through Teams. So this is the learn more slide, Caitlin. I don't know if you want to jump in on this one, but.
Yeah, and then I think we're almost done. We've got lots of great questions that I was not able to answer, and some I might not still be able to answer, so I'll have to do some takeaways. But yeah, a couple questions on training and learning how to use the solution more. So we've got a bunch of resources. The first one is our Ninja page. So it's basically a collection of resources, and it talks through the capabilities across kind of the EDRM stages. And it also points to our docs page, which is now called learn.microsoft.com. And that's where all those details typically are found in terms of what the solution can or can't do. We always have a blog. That's the link that announces our latest releases and things that are upcoming. And so that URL will remain the same. It always points to the most recent version. We did one in November during our Ignite conference, which is a big moment for us. And then we've got another one that will be coming up in March because we're going to be attending Legal Week. So if anyone's there, please, would love to meet you in person. We'll have 6 or 7 sessions during that week in New York. And so I'll be putting out a blog of all the great stuff the team's been building since our last one. We've got a Learn eDiscovery track that you can kind of go through, and it's got some video as well as some documentation and steps you can play with. We've got a user guide we just came out with. Again, URL will remain the same. We're going to refresh it in the January, February timeframe with some of the new features, but welcome to check it out now. And that, again, is a modular format where you can click through. So it kind of looks like a live environment, but you're actually clicking the buttons and creating that case, committing a collection, doing the reveal, all that fun stuff. We also have a white paper, and this was co-authored by our CELA team. So this is where it talks through some of those benefits they've seen and how they've been able to achieve that. So I encourage you to read that one. And then if you don't own E5 and you want to try it, we do have a trial. So there's some links there. We'll make sure that those links are active in the PDF that we share afterwards. And then our public roadmap of what's coming. Some of those new features I talked about today, like guest access or delegated access, can be found there at that public roadmap. And then Jordan, do you have any links you want to share? I think you guys were going to share some of your other webinars that you've done in the past.
Jared was going to throw that one in the chat. So we do have a bunch of other webinars that we've done. They're on our site. There's no registration or anything to view them, but we've done a number of different ones on Purview in terms of the records side. We've done some Power Apps portal side, so things for the education industry. But I encourage you to kind of check those out if you really want to hear my voice go on and on and on. There's a bunch of hours there that you can go through. Other than that, I think we tackled a lot of the questions in the chat. I don't think you're going to win that battle, Caitlin, in the chat side of things for Q&A, but maybe we'll turn it back over to Jen and the ARMA team for any kind of wrap up here.
Yeah, I was just going to say congratulations. I think this is officially the most questions we've ever received in
I don't know if that's a good
webinar.
Is that good?
So,
yeah, is that good?
I mean, obviously you, struck our, kind of hitting and meeting our attendees definitely where they are needing
topic they care about.
Yes.
Yeah,
so I think it's definitely a wonderful sign. For all of our attendees, what we typically do in the case where we get so many questions that we can't get to all of them, we will take this information out of the platform. I'll get it over to Jordan and Caitlin, and they'll provide some answers. We'll put together in a nice PDF for you guys, and then get that sent out with the information as well. So kind of keep an eye on your inbox for that information as well, or you can always go back and find it in our LMS. We'll get it hosted there as well. But I think, maybe even consider doing a part 2 or maybe a follow-up to some of these questions in the new year, just to put that little bug in your ear. So I think unless, if there's anything you guys wanted to cover, if there were any major questions that were posed that you feel like are good to kind of wrap it up with, other than wishing everyone a happy new year, I think, I don't have much else to announce.
Awesome. Yeah. We can take a few minutes and try and answer some of the other ones. I'm trying to see if there was a good
Any limitations for GCC? I think was one question, Caitlin.
Yeah, that was one of them. I thought so. I'm assuming you're talking about the government cloud stuff. Yeah. So
Yes.
our commitment is to, or what we strive for, and we push our engineering to, is to deliver the same feature and functionality within 90 days from when we release it to the worldwide. And so we want parity across. So we don't want to build something for one and have it functionally work different for the government clouds. But we have to get better at making sure that it comes within that 90-day time frame. We typically don't want to put stuff in that cloud without having that extra layer of testing with the worldwide. So obviously we have different phases when we roll stuff out. So it is kind of a good checkpoint to make sure we don't mess with anything in the Gov Cloud with that slight delay of rolling things out. So there's quite a few questions on redaction and things like that. So probably that's a good summary one we can do afterwards. Yep. There was quite a few questions on non-Microsoft sources. So I shared some of the links there, and we'll make sure we get that in the PDF wrap up around the connectors and the APIs. So ways to import that non-Microsoft data, which again benefits you can use not just eDiscovery features and functionalities on that, but you can apply sensitivity labels. You could do some of our DLP stuff and MIP, so all of the Purview solutions would benefit. You'd be able to take advantage of all of those solutions when you import that data into your tenant via the connectors. I think there's over 100 and something connectors. I know you mentioned WhatsApp, but Messenger, all of that good stuff. And so there's a link there that'll show you everything what's available. And yeah, Teams chat reactions are discoverable and searchable. So that's a yes. There's a lot of anonymous questions. So I'm not sure who asked that one, but that is yes. Okay. And there's a question on private video calls, non-meetings. So if it's not recorded, as far as that, Jordan, do you know how to, I'm trying to think of, are private video calls non-meeting from one associate to another in Teams recorded or discoverable? So unless you record them, they're not discoverable. So if Jordan and I do a weekly meeting and we always use video, that's not recorded and not discoverable. I hope that answers that question. Okay.
Anonymous will get back to you. So.
And then there's stuff around filed shares and non-structured data. So I'll make sure that we kind of wrap those up all together in similar questions, just kind of bundle them up. Oh yeah, this slide, there's a few appendix slides. Maybe I'll just reference the deck.
We'll run into that
these are the specific recommendations from our CELA team, what they do across the entire workflow in order for them to benefit. This kind of pulled out from the white paper, but if you want to read the white paper too, there's the link again. And then what else do we got?
We got the yellow slide.
I made this color yellow. I didn't build this. Anyways, again, shows kind of a little bit more detail between the two versions. So if you need to make a business case for your organization on why you need E5, because look at all the great stuff you can do, this could potentially help. Yeah.
And if you need to make that business case, I can help from a not just eDiscovery standpoint, but there's Power BI benefits, there's Teams calling, there's a ton in Purview for records management. It's not just you're not just buying a single feature anymore, you're buying a whole set. So kind of
that all works together. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, Jordan, how about you take a minute at the end here, just make a plug on what you guys do, how best to get in touch with you guys, what kind of offerings you have.
Yeah, so shameless plug, I guess, at the end. So we're a consulting organization that focuses on Microsoft 365. We're in one of the sub-partner programs called Content Services. So we focus on Purview, SharePoint, Teams, Syntex, which is a new product from Microsoft. Started as a customer, went through a poor experience on an implementation, turned into a vendor. That's the short story on me in the elevator pitch with Cadence.
Good. Very, very good. Well, if that is kind of all we have, I'll wrap it up and just say, once again, thank you to Jordan and Caitlin for joining us today. This was such, such great content. And like I said, with all the questions that came in, we definitely are providing content that was needed. So we appreciate your time and putting this together and taking time out of your day to come and talk to us today. To all of our attendees, thank you so much for coming to today's session. Like we said, keep an eye on your inbox for all the follow-up information for this specific session, as well as future sessions to come. Like I mentioned, we've got a lot of good things planned in 2023. ARMA will also be at Legal Week. So you can 2 birds, 1 stone. If you're going to be attending that conference, go see Caitlin and ARMA all in one shot. And with that, I'll just say thanks once again. Have a lovely holidays, a happy new year, and we are excited for 2023.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.